Hi, my name's Steve Waldron. I'm the GIS coordinator here in the city of Richmond and the trainer here in the city of Richmond. And this video called Creating GIS Layers in ArcGIS Online is designed to show those users how they can create their own GIS layers in ArcGIS Online. You've already seen how to find our GIS layers, but nothing about creating your own. This is a slide everyone has seen repeatedly in our training courses. You learned how to make web maps and to find and use GIS layers in your web maps, but sometimes you need to create your own GIS layers, which are needed for your projects or for your department. You do not need all the power of ArcGIS Pro to make GIS layers. We do not want to install ArcGIS Pro on city computers to support just this need, if it can be done in the cloud where everything else is being done. Because ArcGIS Pro is for the most advanced users or for users with specific cartographic requirements. So in today's class, we're going to teach you how to create GIS layers in the cloud, making them available for your interactive web map solutions. So things to think about for your GIS layer. Well, the first thing to think about is what type of feature would be best? Do you need to represent features with points, or should they be represented with lines? Or should you be digitizing areas or polygons? Second, what attributes would your features need? So maybe you need to have some kind of ID or a name. Maybe you're doing a condition attribute or you're typing things. What attributes do your features need? And optionally, you could choose to use pick lists for your attributes so that when you are creating your GIS layer, you don't have to do typing. You can just pick the attributes off a list. We're going to teach you how to create GIS layers using a scenario, a pretend scenario. And here it is. We'll say the Department of Parks and Recreation has received a grant to be used for replacing or adding new playground amenities for children to our public spaces. And after a summer-long study, the city has decided which locations will be chosen for these amenities. Our task is to create an interactive web map that can be used to communicate the plan on the map. We decided to use point features, and these are the three attributes that we will track on these point features. Every point will have a location, the type of equipment, and the work type to occur. As we've seen in previous courses, we will go through the slide deck that outlines the steps and then toggle over into ArcGIS Online to perform a demo. Just like the map template for web maps, you could create a GIS layer designed the way you like it, and then you could save it and repurpose it in the future for new GIS layers you want to create based from it. So let's look at the first step. The first step is you go to your content workspace and there's a create button with the option feature layer. So you're creating a new feature layer. Step 2, you'll be prompted with this dialog under create a feature, and you can create features 3 different methods: from a template, from an existing layer. As I mentioned before, you might create a layer and you can just reference it and use it to make a copy, or you can build a layer. This is what we'll learn how to do today. We won't use a template. We'll actually build a layer from scratch all by ourselves. So once you choose build a layer, these are the options you'll see. You can create a line layer, a point layer, polygon layer. You can even do a composite, which is a combination of all three. But we'll choose point. Points are good for discrete XY locations or for features to show up on a city-wide map. So it's a question of scale. If you need to see the features when you're zoomed out viewing the whole city, they need to be represented by points. Lines would be good for features like streets or fences, things that are linear. And polygons would be for areas. So if you need to digitize a district of some sort, or a multi-block polygon, or just to identify a specific area, you would digitize a polygon. Lastly, when you choose to create the new content, the new feature layer, it will be created in your workspace. So in this example, I have a project folder and the layer will be added inside that project. And you should always make sure when you fill out your metadata that you do fill out your metadata, and also double check your tags, right? Things that will help people find that layer. So maybe your department name would be a good example. So let's jump right into a demo and show you how to create a GIS layer. Here we can see we are logged in as me. We're in my workspace, we're in the content, and I've already created a folder called project underscore grant children's equipment, because this is a special project we're working on under the scenario that we came up with. So we'll start by going to create. Look at all these things we can create. Well, we're creating a feature layer. We are going to choose build a layer, and we're going to build a point layer. The procedure would be exactly the same if we're doing lines or polygons, but we're choosing to do points. We will click create. It's a point layer. This is the geographic extent. Take the default. And now we have to provide our initial metadata. So we're going to call this exercise amenity. And I think for the tags, let's use exercise and equipment and DPR, and it's a project. For the summary, we'll call it a layer of park slash playground amenities to promote children's physical activity. And it recognizes this new folder I created, so that's where I want it to go. I'll click done. So it's building it. It's building it. And when it's done, it will open it in its overview page. So you should update the description, thumbnail, things like that. But I'll go back to my content and we can see here in my folder is my new layer. This wasn't there before. Now we'll go back to our presentation. Okay, the first thing we would need to do, or the next thing we would need to do, is we should create the attribute fields that we want for the layer. So what we do from the overview page is we'll click on the data tab, and then we'll choose the option for fields, and we can add new fields, new custom fields. So let me go back to to demo this. Here's the new layer. I'm going to go into its overview. I'm going to go to data as the slide indicated, and I'm going to click on fields. These are the out-of-the-box fields that the system creates for its own purposes. We want to create our own attributes. So we're going to click Add Field. And remember, there were three of them: location, equipment, and work type. So let's do the first one, location. It's a string field, and we'll just say it only needs to be 40 spaces wide. Here we can see location has been added. Let's add our next one, equipment. And it will be a string field, and it only needs to be 35 characters wide. So now we have location and equipment. And let's add our last and third attribute field we said we wanted, called work type. And it will be a string field, and it only needs to be 16 characters. Okay, so we've added the fields. Go back to the presentation. Go to the next slide. We decided we want to use pick lists for two of our attribute fields. So why would you want to use a pick list anyway? Well, it provides a list of the only values you want used in a field. You want to eliminate, you know, random things that people might enter. It also eliminates typos, right? So someone might misspell jungle gym some other way. So you can eliminate things like that from happening. And it makes it faster to digitize and attribute your features. So it's good for time efficiency, and it's good for quality control. So here we begin the process of how to create pick lists. It's the same process. You start from the overview page for your layer. You're going to go to data. You have to go to the fields, and then you click on the particular field for which you want to create a pick list. Once you click the field, there's an option called Create List. And once you create list, you can just simply add row by row by row all the things you want to appear in the list for that attribute field. So let's demo how this is done. All right, the first thing we want to do is equipment. So we're on the overview. We go into data, fields, equipment, and I'm going to create a list. Okay, the first one we want is basketball court. The system remembers I've used these before. I'm going to add a new record. We could also have bike racks. Okay, there's other equipment. We can have a jungle gym, we said. So I'm going to enter jungle gym as the third type of equipment. And we could have slides. And the last one we'll choose, there could be a swing set. Okay, so this is the pick list we're going to use for the equipment field. I'll click Save. Now I'm going to go to the next one, work type. There were two work types. The equipment could be either new or it could be a replacement. So let's create a really short list for that. New. And it could be replacement, right? We might be replacing the equipment. And we'll click Save. I'm going to go back to content. So I've created a layer. I added the attribute fields I wanted, and I even created two pick lists to assign to two of those attribute fields. We'll go back to the presentation to see what's next. This is a reminder that under the settings for the layer from the overview page, there is an option down here called editing if you scroll down. And the layer needs to be sure to be labeled or enabled for editing. By default, it will be set to enable editing when you create a new feature layer. If you create a layer and then you no longer want it to be edited, you could always come back and you could put the check mark, you could remove the check mark and it can no longer be edited. Also, if it's important to you, you could mark delete protection to keep it from being accidentally removed. So the process is you add the layer into a new web map and then you click the edit button and it will allow you to click on the feature type here and then click on the map. So let's demo this, and we're going to create a bunch of locations where we're going to have either new equipment or replacement equipment. First thing I have to do is create a web map. I currently don't have one in my workspace. So I'll go to map. I'm going to do save. I'm going to call this web map children's exercise equipment plan. I think the tags I'm going to use will be similar to the layer itself. Exercise equipment, the department, and it's a project. For the summary, we'll say this map shows the locations where the city proposes to install new equipment. And it's going to save it in my project folder. So that's perfect. I'll hit save. And I think for the purposes of creating features, I'd like to see the orthos. So I'm going to change my base map. And I kind of like this firefly imagery. I'll use that as my base map. I do need to add the layer into my web map, of course. So I'm going to go up to add data and search for layers. And the system's pretty smart. It recognizes automatically what the latest layer is that you've added to your workspace. So it sees the exercise amenity. It's at the top of the list, and it will be for you too. So I'll go ahead and add that layer to my web map. I'm going to hit the left arrow to get this out of the way and get back to my table of contents. So this is my layer. It's turned on. We don't see anything because there are no features in it yet. Um, okay. I'm going to do a search. I have my first location is over at Carter Jones Park. And I know that is at near the intersection of West 29th at Porter. Okay, so over here in this space, this is Carter Jones Park, and they've identified the need to put a bike rack over here next to this playground. So we're going to come over here and click the edit button. Editing exercise amenity layer. We're going to add a new feature. So we just click on the map where we want the bike rack to go. Let's say we want it to be right here next to this tree, and it prompts you to enter the attributes. So where the location is going to be Carter Jones Park. The equipment, we've decided a bike rack is going to go here, and it's a new bike rack. There isn't one there currently. Hit close. The point is created. Okay, we have another location. The next location where we're going to put equipment is in the Maury Recreation Area. So I happen to know that this is going to be located over at Maury Street at East 15th. Okay, so we can see over here, and this is the Maury Recreation Area. Looks like there's a football field, there's a softball field, some tennis courts and basketball courts. But you know what? There's no playground. And we want to put a playground right here. That's what was decided. So we'll click a new feature. And the first thing we're going to do is add a slide. We know we want to have a slide over here. So the location is Maury Recreation Area. The feature is a slide, and it's a new slide. We're not replacing one because there isn't one yet. Right next to the slide, we're going to put a jungle gym. So again, this is the Maury Recreation Area. This is going to be a jungle gym, and it's a new one. Okay, another location in northern Barton Heights near the intersection of Woodrow Avenue at Clifton. Here's an area in northern Barton Heights. We can see there's a baseball field and a softball field here, but it was decided that there should be a basketball court installed here. So let's go and indicate a basketball court is going to go here. The location for this is called Northern Barton Heights. The equipment choice this time is going to be basketball court, and it's going to be new. Notice how the pick lists really make this easy. We're going to do just one more for our scenario here. We're going to go to the Humphrey Calder Community Center. So this, I happen to know, is located near North Thompson at Hanover Avenue. So, whoops, North Thompson at Hanover Avenue. Let me use the Richmond locator for this one. Okay, this worked. Here's the expressway right over here. And here's the community centers down here. And here's where their playground is. So you may be able to see here, there's a swing set. Well, let's say this swing set is rusting out and it's unsafe. So it was decided that here at the Humphrey Calder Community Center, we're going to install a new swing set. So this is going to be a replacement. It's a replacement project. Okay, so you've seen how we've, okay, I'm going to stop editing. I'm going to click on the edit button to release it. And my edits are done. They're all saved. So you've seen how we were able to go in, move around the map, digitize and attribute the locations of things. They could have been lines, they could have been polygons. We happen to use points. I'm going to change the base map to be a light gray because I want my map to show these points and really highlight where the locations are for the exercise equipment. So the light gray map does a really nice job of detracting from itself. So here we can see we have a point here in Barton Heights, Humphrey Calder, Carter Jones, and the recreation area. So having chosen the light gray base map, I'm going to thematically map these. We learned how to do this, right? We go and change the style. I want to map them by their equipment attribute. I'm going to just take the defaults. I could go in and change these colors or symbols if I wanted to, but I'll go ahead and accept them. And as I zoom in, we can see we've got our slide, our jungle gym, etc. So as we move around the map, those points, we can see those points. Let's say when we zoom in, we get to a point where we want to see a label. Well, we can configure this to be labeled when we get to a particular scale. The attribute we want labeled is, we'll say the work type. Okay, so we know that this is going to be a new install of a bike rack. You can tell by the legend. We could also click on it. It tells us it's a bike rack and it was going to be a new one. Let's configure these pop-ups. So for our application, and we learned how to do this, we can go and configure a pop-up for our new layer. I'm going to call this grant equipment decision. And when I clicked on here, you see how it's got edit by and minutes ago and attachments. I don't want any of this stuff to appear. So I'm going to remove these check marks. And I'm going to click on configure attributes to see which attributes I want to show. These are the ones I want: location, equipment, and the work type. I'll hit OK. And now when I click on the feature, this is the grant equipment decision has been made for Carter Jones Park. Okay, so as I zoom out, let's go over here to Northern Barton Heights. And we can see there's a new basketball court for that location. So here we've combined the skills that you already had of thematic mapping, doing labels, doing pop-ups, and we've combined that with creating your own layer, adding your own attribute fields that you need to have, and using pick lists. So just imagine the kind of data that you guys need to create, the kind of GIS layers. You can create them and store them in your workspace, in your content. What this slide shows you is you can get out of editing by clicking the edit button again. Just a quick note for you. It is possible to use ArcGIS Field Maps. It's a mobile app, and you can actually use it to edit and digitize features in your GIS layer that you create in your workspace. You can go out in the field and using your phone, you can digitize locations. Soon, our team in DIT, the GIS team, can help direct you to the resources and provide a guiding hand if you need to be able to use ArcGIS field maps. We do have an exercise for you, and here's the scenario under which you can do the exercise. We're going to pretend you're an urban planner and you need to digitize a polygon layer to show a proposed rezoning that would support construction of a newly offered food store. So somebody wants to build a food store, but the zoning doesn't allow it. So you're identifying a new zoning district area. So what you're going to do, following the steps in this slide deck, you're going to create a new polygon layer in your content workspace. Make sure you call it whatever your name is, underscore rezoning or something like that. That'll keep it unique because we have multiple people that would be doing this exercise and all layers in the organization have to be unique. And use the build a layer option as documented here. And you're going to add the following 4 attributes to your new layer. So you're going to add fields. You're going to add them called new zoning. It's going to be a string fields, 10 spaces wide. You're going to add another field called location, a third one called improvement value, which will be a numerical, and then a comment, and it will be a string field. Then you're going to create a web map. You're going to name it something with your name underscore rezoning. And you're going to search for and add the zoning districts to the map in addition to the new layer you just created, because you want to see the existing zoning districts in conjunction with your new polygon layer that you're going to create. To find your location on the map, I want you to search for the intersection of East 18th at Edwards Avenue, and it will zoom you in on the map and it will take you here. This is the location you'll see. So once you're added to the map, I want you to digitize a polygon right here in this space on the map. And once you do, I want you to also attribute it, because the attributes will pop up, right? And these are the attributes you're going to use. The zoning is going to be B1, the location, the improvement value, and then a comment. So I'm telling you exactly where to go, what to do, what attributes to use. Having done that, we can just pretend like there's extra credit on this exercise. So I want you to access your overview page for your new layer, and I want you to create a list for the field called new zoning. And I want you to use these 5 values in your list. These are zoning values that you can use. And after you create your list for your attribute field, I want you to just kind of pan around the map and digitize your own polygons and attribute them for their new zoning. And then I want you to thematically map your rezoning polygons using the values in your new zoning attribute field. Just like you saw me thematically map the exercise equipment. Do the same thing for your rezonings by these value types. And that will be the extent of your exercise. You will have um, learned to create your own GIS layer, add it to a map, create fields, and attribute them. So let's look at put things in perspective. Up to this point, you will have already completed our ArcGIS Online pathway. You've got an account. You took the part 1 class. You could have took the part 2 class. You should have, and you might have taken the learning plan. Having done all that, these electives are available for you. And currently, you've just completed the video for creating GIS layers in ArcGIS Online. So what's next? I would like to remind you that all the slide deck presentations are available to you near the top of the video's website. So you can click on that and you can go and get any of the slide decks for any of these videos. Or you can go straight to this URL and you'll see all the slide decks are organized there as well. It's the same link. I want you to be able to, I want to make sure that you go and perform the exercise that we described here on pages 17 through 19. And then please send an email to this email address to inform us that you've taken the, I have the wrong name here, but that you've completed the Creating GIS Layers in ArcGIS Online class. Thanks and good luck.